Everything in the modern era is being digitized. Think about what you actually hold in your wallet nowadays. You most likely have your card on your phone. You most likely keep your cash on your phone. And you most likely use a lot of your gift cards and various items that typically would have been carried in person 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's pretty much all online. The only thing that we do not have online currently is ID verification. Now, anybody, especially who's on the younger side, will know it is very annoying when you have a photo of your ID, yet people will not accept it. And this is because of the ability to fake identification. And so the blockchain presents a very interesting prospect in being able to verify IDs based on the distributor, so the contract that the ID is linked to, as well as the account holder itself, because there's something called a soul-bound token within the Ethereum blockchain. And essentially, this is a token that once it is transferred to a wallet, once it is minted, it cannot be transferred to anybody else. Now, I had this idea way back in 2022. And to show you guys the receipts, let's just go ahead and take a look at some of the notes. So as far as the benefits of putting IDs onto the blockchain, let's actually talk about it, right? Now, as far as the technical aspect to it, the way that it prevents fraud in the sense of being able to verify that the ID comes from a government identity is whenever you release a contract onto the Ethereum blockchain, whenever somebody mints a token, like an ERC 721 token, you're able to see the address that the contract is connected to. And so by understanding the contract address, if it's already been verified to be a contract administered by a federal agency or even a state or a local agency, then it's very easy to identify that a certain token or a certain ID is derived from that contract. Essentially, it eliminates the fiasco of having to deal with people just taking screenshots and think they're going to be able to fake their IDs. No. Essentially, how this could be used is you could connect your phone to, let's say, if you got pulled over, the police would have an app on their phone to be able to connect to your wallet and verify that you are who you say you are. And again, this just goes towards eliminating the need to carry a physical ID. It's just so outdated. Just think about the way that we've progressed over the last few decades. Everything is about efficiency. And so, especially even if in the event you lose your ID, you have to pay $50 to get a new one anyways. You have to wait several days to several weeks to get it shipped out. This is quick. It's instant. And so on top of eliminating the physical aspect of the IDs, you're presenting a very credible way to verify that an ID comes from an official administration. Now, originally when I thought of this concept, I was thinking to start with private owned enterprises. So I was looking at hospitals, especially given at the time I was a biomedical science student. And I know this says it was written today. I'm just annoyed because I tried sharing this with my computer and then it just said it was today. This was June 11th of 2022 that when this note was made. But essentially, I was in biomedical sciences, looking into getting to the medical field, and I saw all these people just carrying around physical IDs, and I thought this is so dumb. But there wasn't a way to verify again that the ID is legit, and that is the big piece that was missing up until the end of 22. Now, I would have to double check to make sure that soulbound tokens have been created, but I would imagine, given they were talked about way back in the early stages of 2022, it's more than likely that the tools are there to be able to implement these. Now, as far as the technical component, the way that this ID would work and function, like I mentioned, just given the knowledge that I now have as far as how the code works, there's different ways to do this. So originally, I was looking at a verification code that changes kind of how like a 256-bit encryption system changes. Anybody who's in the banking field knows what I'm talking about. But essentially, given you're just wanting to verify that a ID, that a token is coming from a certain contract, honestly, that wouldn't even necessarily be required as long as you have your physical device that has the wallet that your NFT is stored on. So this is again, this was the early iteration. Some of the other notes, and you guys can see the timestamps here, January 30th of 2022. Find somebody who was talking about this earlier. I dare you. Obviously, there was people talking about it, but not a whole lot. And so essentially, the way that I was looking at doing this from a governmental level was similar to how you go into the DMV to get your ID. You would just pull up to the DMV, and instead of them giving you a physical card, they could also, in addition, give you a token that is kept on chain. Now, I don't know if Ethereum would be the best one for this, given the costs, especially during times where there is high gas fees. But given this can be done at any time, I think it's something that's viable on Ethereum. But again, there's other chains that are available as well. We're just wanting to find a chain that is going to be long lasting, and Ethereum does present that use case in the long term, just as far as not going anywhere. There's plenty of major companies building on Ethereum, and end of the day, that is what it is. It's a place that you can build if then contracts that can automatically execute without needing a third party. So I don't see it going anywhere. I do think it is a good candidate for being able to do this type of process. The only thing is obviously, again, going to be those gas fees, but with the proper rollout and the proper implementation, I think that could be mitigated. Now, as far as the way this would work, the main thing is having an identifiable and verified origin, that being the address of the contract that the token is linked to. The whole thing with a private authorization code will probably still implement some type of code, although I don't think necessarily having it change repeatedly over and over again is all that necessary. We don't have that for our driver's license and other identifications. So the main thing is being able to verify where the ID came from and whether or not it's legit. Now, how can this actually be used? One of the biggest use cases that this will be used for is going to be with voter identification. 2020 was a whole deal when it came to the elections and people being worried that it was stolen, and rightfully so. I mean, everybody has seen the charts where all of a sudden tons and tons of voters just happen to boost Biden above the polls at like 11 p.m. at night. Essentially, this could be a way to verify identification for online voting and prevent any sort of fraudulent behavior in the future. Now, how can this be done? You would need to implement this in a step that it has several checks and balances, like we already have within the central government. Now, the way this could be done is there is a federal ID issued, a state ID issued, and a county ID issued. And this way, all three need to line up for you to be able to submit your vote. Now, in addition, there could also be three privately issued IDs, and this is to have a check against the government itself. But all in all, I mean, if you had a six-layer identification system that is all built around verifying where the IDs came from by using the contract address, it's impossible to fake identities. You can't fake having a dead person fill this out online, given you would need to go in person to be able to get your digital ID. And on top of this, even if the United States federal government, state government, and county government all colluded to steal the election, the three private IDs would again be in a safety guard against having social security numbers that haven't been in use for decades because the people are dead. It mitigates from, again, a lot of these issues that we had seen in the 2020 elections. Now, as far as a daily use case, in addition to this, just going out to public outings. If you're a business owner who runs a bar and you're tired of having a bunch of underage people come in and start drinking, you can have bouncers verify with an app the NFT validity to make sure that it actually came from a government source and that the person is the age that they say they are. So, again, all this can be solved with the use case of soul-bound tokens. This is the technology. It's not a token that you're going to buy and expect to make a bunch of cash on. But this is a token that will allow people to not have to carry around physical IDs and ultimately provide many use cases like voter identification. And on top of this, even verifying identities for the prospect of free speech. Now, getting into this, I had one of my friends, I consider him a friend. We've only met a few times, but he's like a mentor slash friend slash person I've just done some good business with. Gary the numbers guy. He It's funny because I know people gave him flack for numerology back in the day, and maybe he's just giving me the test to be able to see how well I'm able to articulate my ideas, but he has pushed back quite a bit against the idea of blockchain and crypto-oriented technologies. But he did go on Twitter the other day to say that he wants people to be verified and identified if they're going to be able to make comments, just attacking people online, whether that's in the public forum or through private messages. And honestly, if you look back 100, 120 years ago, you were saying stuff to people's face if you had to say it. Otherwise, you were just considered a coward. But nowadays, the online atmosphere has opened up the opportunity for many people to just say whatever they want with no consequences. So by implementing soulbound tokens, you could have these attached to your account, and that would allow you to have full access of all normal privileges, including maybe some new ones that may be implemented as freedom of speech becomes more and more pushed as part of the agenda with Trump rolling into the presidential office. So essentially, you could link your soulbound token to, let's say, your X slash Twitter account. And now you do have the ability to private message and say certain things on public. But, you start making threats to people in the private messages, they're going to be able to find out who you are. So again, there's tons and tons of use cases for this, both on the private and the public sector and areas. But I do think this is going to be a really cool technology that, with the Trump administration coming into power in 2025 in less than 2 months, we should definitely see some more activity around this technology and its implementation. So with this video, you should understand how soul-bound tokens, how IDs kept on the blockchain would eliminate the need for physical identification. It would progress the agenda of having fully verified voter identification on top of providing a full platform for freedom of speech, but consequences to what you say. So many different use cases, many different things that I do anticipate we will see become more and more talked about and discussed going into 2025. So if you guys learned something about soulbound tokens and want to see more crypto related content, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.